Imagine this, a single, ordinary-looking penny, dull and brown with time, hiding in your change jar or an old coffee tin, but secretly worth over $1.2 million. Yes, a single 1941 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin so rare, so unexpected, it's become a legend whispered among collectors and dreamers alike. Now, before you think this is just another story about rare coins, take a breath. Because what you're about to hear could change the way you look at every penny you've ever touched. Somewhere out there, among billions of ordinary coins, a few hold the power to transform an everyday person into a millionaire. Instantly, it all begins in 1941. The world was on edge. World War II loomed over every nation. Factories were running night and day. In America, the U.S. Mint was working at full capacity, striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies made of pure copper. But something happened that year, something mysterious. A small batch of coins left the mint with subtle differences, tiny imperfections invisible to the casual eye, but monumental to those who knew what to look for. Philadelphia, the main U.S. mint at the time, didn't use a mint mark. So any 1941 penny without that tiny letter under the date was made there. But not all of them were created equal. Some had double dies, a faint, almost ghostly duplication of the letters and numbers. Others had unique, striking errors that made them stand out under magnification. Details that only the sharpest eyes could catch. And here's the part that gives this story its spark of magic. A few of these 1941 no-mint mark wheat pennies were struck on the wrong kind of metal planchet, a blank intended for another coin. That mistake, that fraction of a second in history, turned an ordinary penny into one worth over $1 million. Imagine finding one. Picture holding it in your hand, the weight of history and luck pressing against your palm. You're not just touching copper. You're holding a relic that survived 8 decades, passed through pockets during wartime, through the hands of soldiers, farmers, mothers, and children. And somehow, it found its way to you. Collectors call it the phantom penny. It's elusive, almost mythical, and yet it's real. The 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny with the right combination of condition, rarity, and striking error can fetch staggering prices at auction. Some pristine examples, graded MS 68 red, have crossed the $1 million mark under the bright lights of bidding wars. Now let's reset for a moment. Because here's where you come in. You might think, there's no way I'd ever find one. But people say that, right up until they do. You've heard the stories. A retired mechanic finds a rare penny in a jar. A grandmother passes down a handful of coins, and one turns out to be life-changing. So let's talk about how to know what you're looking at. Take a 1941 penny, no mint mark beneath the date. Flip it over. The reverse should show 2 wheat stalks curving inward, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. It's simple, classic, the kind of coin design that tells the story of early America. Now, examine the obverse, Lincoln's portrait. The key is in the details. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the word liberty, at the letters in God We Trust, and at the numbers in 1941. Any doubling or distortion, any faint shadow of a second strike, that's your clue. That's the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million treasure. Check the color too. Collectors categorize these pennies as brown, red-brown, or red. The more red, the closer to the coin's original copper brilliance, the higher the value. A 1941 penny with that blazing copper glow, nearly untouched by time, can fetch hundreds or thousands even without errors. But combine that condition with a rare minting anomaly, and you're suddenly holding a ticket to fortune. Let's pause for a moment. Think of what that means. A coin minted during a world war, outlasting generations, silently carrying its secret through time. The men who struck those pennies in 1941 never imagined they'd be hunted like gold 8 decades later. But here we are, still searching, still believing. It's late at night. You're going through an old jar of coins that's been sitting in a closet for years. One coin catches the light differently. It's darker, maybe smoother. You flip it over, 1941. No mint mark. You pull out your magnifier. The numbers seem doubled. Your heart starts pounding. Could this be it? You compare it with images online, watching videos of rare penny finds, and the resemblance is uncanny. Every detail lines up. You realize you might be holding one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. And in that moment, your world changes. Because you're not just looking at a penny, you're looking at your future. Some collectors spend decades chasing that feeling. Others stumble upon it by chance. But the thrill, the dream, is the same. The idea that a simple, overlooked piece of change could hold the key to a better life. Remember, not every 1941 penny is valuable. There were over 887 million made. But only a tiny fraction, fewer than 1 in a million, have those rare characteristics that make them worth life-changing sums. So when you look at your coins, take your time. Study the edges. Examine the strike. Look for smoothness, shine, and strength in Lincoln's portrait. The details will tell you everything. And don't forget about professional grading. If you think you've found something special, send it to a certified coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate and encapsulate your coin, preserving its value forever. Many of the million-dollar pennies you hear about, they only reached that level after being professionally graded and confirmed genuine. Let's reset again, because this isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about history hiding in plain sight. Every coin has a story, a journey, and sometimes that story ends with a fortune in your hands. Imagine the conversation you'd have with your family, your friends, your grandchildren. This old penny, you'd say, the one sitting in that jar for decades, it's worth more than a house. They'd laugh, then stare in disbelief when the truth sinks in. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt through time. And the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny is one of the greatest treasures of them all. So tonight, when you get home, grab that coin jar. Spread those pennies out on the table. Look at each one like it could be the key to your future, because one of them just might be. They whisper. And sometimes, all it takes is curiosity and a bit of faith to uncover something extraordinary. You don't need luck. You just need to look closely, believe in the possibility, and keep searching. Because history has a funny way of rewarding those who pay attention. Imagine this. You're holding a single copper penny, something so ordinary, so common, you'd never think twice. But what if I told you that one of these 1955 Lincoln wheat pennies could secretly be worth $1.3 million? That's right. A single coin, small enough to slip between your couch cushions, could change your life forever. It's not a fairy tale. It's real. And the story behind this mysterious penny begins in a time of change, confusion, and hidden mistakes, the 1950s. America was booming. The Lincoln cent had already been a beloved symbol of honesty and hard work for nearly half a century. But in 1955, deep inside the Denver Mint, something happened that no one could have predicted. Mint workers were rushing to meet demand. Billions of pennies were being struck for circulation. Every coin, every die, had to be perfect, but perfection is a fragile thing. One tiny misalignment, one unnoticed doubling, and a miracle of error was born. Somewhere in the chaos of molten copper and machinery, a few rare 1955 wheat pennies came out with a striking difference, an anomaly that would later become one of the most valuable coin discoveries in U.S. history. Now imagine the feeling. A worker, tired from a long night shift, watching the press clatter and hum. Pennies spill across the floor like a waterfall of copper. To him, they're just coins, but among them, hidden in plain sight, lies a future fortune. Most people will never notice it. But if you know what to look for, you just might. So let's break the mystery wide open. Start with the basics. The obverse side, Lincoln's portrait. You're looking for a clean 1955 date paired with a small D mint mark right below it. But that's not all. What makes this penny so extraordinary isn't the date or the mint mark, it's what's wrong with them. On rare examples, the doubling effect is almost ghost-like. You'll see the numbers 1955 appear slightly offset, the edges of each digit shadowed by a faint second impression. Lincoln's face may appear slightly doubled too, his profile having that eerie, mirrored look that sends collectors into a frenzy. That's the secret, the doubling. The difference between a regular penny and a million-dollar coin lies in that delicate, mysterious flaw. How many of these coins were spent without a second glance? Dropped into payphones, lost in parking meters, buried in drawers for decades. Each one a tiny time capsule holding unimaginable value. A coin worth over $1 million, hiding in everyday life? The answer lies in rarity and human fascination. There are only a handful of true 1955 D double die wheat pennies known to exist. Most of the 1955 double dies came from the Philadelphia Mint, but the Denver issue? That's the unicorn. The Denver Mint was meticulous, and the errors that escaped were few, maybe a few dozen, maybe fewer. The scarcity drives collectors wild. When one appears at auction, bidding wars erupt. The last verified specimen sold for over $1 million, and yet, thousands of people pass by one without knowing. Every coin collector knows the thrill of discovery, that heartbeat moment when you flip over a coin and realize it's not ordinary. It's that feeling of history and luck colliding in your palm. The 1955 D penny is the pinnacle of that dream, the perfect blend of mystery, rarity, and fate. Identifying one takes more than luck. You need to know where to look. First, inspect the obverse under good lighting. Tilt it slightly, let the light slide across Lincoln's image. The doubling will appear like a shadow, almost vibrating at the edges of the numbers and letters. The Liberty on the left side of the coin is another clue. Look closely, and you may see faint, ghost-like outlines of the letters repeating themselves. Next, examine the reverse side, the wheat stalks framing 1 cent. Some examples show subtle doubling there too, especially around E pluribus unum. But even if you don't see it, the obverse is key. That's where the money hides. Now take a breath. Imagine holding a coin that survived 7 decades, slipping through generations unnoticed. Think about the millions of hands it could have passed through: a soldier, a farmer, a mother buying milk, a child saving up for candy, none of them knowing that the coin in their palm was worth a fortune. The most valuable treasures often hide in the most ordinary places. Let's reset for a second. Picture your own coin jar, the one sitting in the kitchen cabinet, full of forgotten change. You probably think it's nothing special, just spare cents. But what if, buried in that pile, there's a 1955 D wheat penny? What if, right now, you own something worth over $1 million and don't even know it? That's the power of awareness. Collectors who discovered these coins weren't always experts. Some were ordinary people. A man in Ohio once spotted one while rolling coins for the bank. A teenager in California found one mixed in with his dad's old collection. Each story ends the same way: disbelief, then joy, then history. Yet that's what makes this hobby more than collecting metal. It's about hope, about knowing that somewhere in your possession could be a piece of American history that changes your life forever. Now, don't confuse it with the regular 1955 double die from Philadelphia. That one's valuable too, but the Denver Mint version is far rarer. Check that mint mark carefully. It should be a tiny, perfectly punched D beneath the date, no doubling on the mint mark itself. The color of the copper should be consistent, not cleaned or polished. Authenticity is everything, and when you find something suspicious, don't rush. Protect it. Hold it by the edges, store it safely, and never clean it. A single scratch can destroy thousands in value. Send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. If they confirm it's real, congratulations, you've just uncovered a piece of numismatic legend. Think about that. From pocket change to million-dollar treasure. But here's the deeper truth. Coins like this remind us that fortune often hides in plain sight. That life's biggest opportunities aren't always loud or obvious. Sometimes they're sitting quietly, waiting for someone patient enough to look closer. So maybe tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that dusty drawer, take a moment. Look closer at your pennies. Because the next great discovery might not happen in a museum. It might happen right in your own home. That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching year after year, the chance that lightning might strike twice. The dream that the next coin they find could make history again. Imagine it. One small copper coin, one faint doubling, one life-changing realization. A penny so rare it could pay off your house, your debts, your dreams. All because you took the time to notice. So go ahead. Turn on the light. Open that old coin jar. Check the dates. Look for the D, and study every curve of that 1955. Because this story isn't over, it's waiting for you to finish it. But what if I told you that one of these nearly invisible little coins, a 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, could be worth up to $1.4 million? It sounds impossible, But the truth behind this coin is one of the most mysterious and thrilling stories in American numismatics. The year was 1952. The United States Mint in San Francisco was producing millions of pennies, each made of humble copper and stamped with President Lincoln's solemn profile. Workers on the mint floor had no idea that among the countless coins pouring off those machines, a few would emerge with something extraordinary, something no one would recognize for decades. These coins disappeared into circulation, mingled with the ordinary, and began their quiet journey through the hands of millions. People bought candy, paid for newspapers, tossed them in jars. No one knew that hidden in that everyday change was a collector's dream, a coin that would one day command over $1 million in value. Someone handing you a handful of old change, and inside that mix, a coin whose value could change your life forever. Most people would never notice. Because the 1952 wheat penny doesn't shout its worth, it hides it. Why would a penny from 1952 be worth more than a luxury car, more than a home, more than a lifetime of savings? It's all about the details. The first clue lies in the mint mark. Look right below the date on the coin. You'll see a tiny S. That mark stands for San Francisco Mint, and it's the starting point of this mystery. The 1952 pennies were made in relatively low numbers compared to other years, but rarity alone doesn't explain million-dollar value. It's what happened to a few of those coins that sets them apart. A small number of 1952 pennies were struck using a die that had a microscopic doubling error, a mechanical slip so small it escaped detection. On these coins, the date, the S, mint mark, and even the words Liberty and In God We Trust show faint but definite doubling. To the untrained eye, it might look like a blur, but to a collector, it's a lightning strike of fortune. These double die errors are like nature's accidents, rare, random, and priceless. But there's more. Some 1952 pennies were struck on leftover planchets, coin blanks from other years, creating off-metal errors that collectors call wrong planchet strikes. Imagine a 1952 penny made of slightly different alloy, lighter in weight, with a slightly different ring when dropped. Those coins are practically invisible until tested, and yet they can command hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million at auction. Every so often, one of these hidden treasures surfaces. Someone cleaning out an attic, sorting through an old jar of wheat pennies, suddenly notices something strange. The shine, the texture, the doubled lettering. They post it online, unsure, and collectors swarm the photos. Then the grading experts confirm it. Authentic, extremely rare, nearly flawless condition. Overnight, a penny once worth 1 cent becomes worth $1 million. It's not luck alone. It's about knowing what to look for. And that's the secret every serious collector guards closely. So let's go deeper. Or does it show doubling, a shadow, or ghostly outline? Then look at the date, the 1, the 9, the 5, the 2. If any of them appear slightly thicker, or like they were stamped twice, you could be holding the rare doubled die. Next, study Lincoln's eye and jawline. Even the faintest doubling there could mean a fortune. Condition is everything. A worn coin might still be valuable, but one preserved in near-perfect, mint-red condition. That's where the million-dollar magic happens. Collectors call it red MS-67, and those few examples in that pristine state are what command life-changing prices. For many collectors, the 1952 penny is not just about money. It's about history. Each coin tells a story of craftsmanship, error, and discovery. Think of it, the San Francisco Mint, still using aging dies, unknowingly creating a handful of flawed beauties that would one day become icons. Imagine the emotional moment when a collector holds one in their palm for the first time, realizing they've found something almost no one else on Earth has. It's the heartbeat of the treasure hunt, the moment when time stops, when a dream becomes real. Every coin collector knows that feeling, the mix of disbelief and excitement when you spot something unusual. Your pulse quickens, your hands tremble just slightly. Could this be the one? Could this be my million-dollar penny? And it's not fantasy. In recent years, rare Lincoln wheat pennies, from 1909 SVDB to 1943 copper errors, have sold for hundreds of thousands, even millions. The 1952 is part of that elite club. its value climbing as more collectors chase fewer surviving examples. Point 1 sold quietly in a private auction for over $1 million. The buyer never revealed their identity. The seller? Just an ordinary person, someone who'd kept an old collection from their grandfather, never realizing the hidden treasure within. That's what makes this story so powerful. It could happen to anyone. To you, to a friend, to the next person who decides to check the coins sitting forgotten in a box. Every time you look at an old penny, remember, you're holding a piece of American history, a fragment of 1952, a symbol of the working hands that built a nation. But within that history, there are secrets, tiny imperfections that turn copper into gold. Even if you've never collected coins before, start looking. Go through your change. Pull out every wheat penny you find. Examine the 1952s carefully. Use a loupe, take your time, and don't assume it's worthless. Because sometimes, the line between a common coin and $1 million treasure is invisible to the naked eye. Think about that for a moment. The idea that wealth beyond imagination could be hiding in plain sight. It's not fantasy. It's reality for the few who learn to see differently. Coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a journey into the hidden corners of history, a treasure hunt that rewards patience, curiosity, and a sharp eye. The next 1952s penny discovery could already be waiting, quietly sitting in a forgotten jar, just like it did for decades before. So tonight, when you go home, open that drawer, that jar, that old box. Pour out your pennies. Let the light hit them one by one. Look for the date 1952. Then, look below it for that small S. And remember what you've learned, the doubling, the color, the perfection of the strike. Because if you find the right one, you won't just be holding a coin, you'll be holding a miracle. It's out there, waiting for someone who believes in possibilities, in second chances, in the magic of discovery. But this isn't any ordinary penny. It's the 1954 D Wheat Lincoln cent, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that even veteran collectors can't help but feel a rush of electricity when they hear its name. It all began in Denver, 1954. America was booming after the war. Factories were roaring, families were growing, and coins like these were rolling off mint presses by the millions. But among those countless pennies, a few emerged unlike any others. Pennies that would go on to become legends whispered about in collector circles for decades. Some say they were minting errors, others claim they were test strikes, and a few insist they were deliberate creations meant for insiders only. Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, 2 wheat ears on the back, symbolizing prosperity and hope. But for a few special coins, something went very wrong, or very right. Maybe it was a dime misalignment, maybe a double strike, or maybe, just maybe, an ultra-rare transitional error between the copper alloy and steel compositions. Whatever the reason, those few coins stand out today as treasures worth well over $1 million each. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what makes your penny potentially life-changing. Because if you've ever held a 1954 D penny in your hand, you could be sitting on a small fortune without realizing it. First, check the mint mark. Right under the date, you should see a small D. That stands for Denver Mint. But here's the catch. Not every D is valuable. You're looking for something that just doesn't look quite right. Maybe the D is slightly doubled or tilted. Maybe it looks thicker or thinner than it should. That tiny imperfection could be the mark of a minting error worth hundreds of thousands, or even $1 million. A retired man in Colorado cleaning out his attic finds an old cigar box full of pennies. He almost throws them away. But one catches his eye, a 1954 D, brighter than the rest, with a faint doubling on the date. He gets it appraised. The result? $1.5 million. Just like that, his life changes forever. That's the kind of story that fuels the passion of collectors everywhere. Let's reset for a second, because if your heart's racing, that's a good sign. This isn't just about money. It's about history. Every coin tells a story, and every collector is a storyteller. The 1954 D Wheat penny isn't just metal. It's a piece of American memory, struck during a time when the nation was rebuilding itself. Lincoln's face, those wheat ears, they're symbols of endurance, of growth, of faith in something bigger. The easiest way to find out is to look closer. Under magnification, check the edges, a doubled rim, misaligned lettering, or extra thickness around Liberty, or In God We Trust. These small differences separate a common penny from a fortune. And sometimes, it's the coins that look slightly imperfect that end up being worth the most. Collectors who've been in the game for decades know that these mistakes are miracles. They weren't supposed to happen. But when they did, they turned ordinary people into millionaires. One story tells of a young boy in the 1970s who found a 1954 D penny with a die crack running through Lincoln's shoulder. His father told him it was nothing special. Decades later, that same coin sold at auction for over $1 million. Every time you hear a story like that, it makes you wonder, how many rare coins are out there, forgotten in coffee cans, drawers, or piggy banks? You might think you'd never be that lucky, but luck favors those who look closer. And the truth is, you don't need to be an expert to recognize greatness. You just need curiosity, patience, and a magnifying glass. Now let's take a moment to imagine holding that coin in your hand, the weight of it, the shine under the light. Knowing that something so small could change everything. You'd feel a mix of disbelief and awe, realizing that history, luck, and destiny all collided in this one little circle of copper. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt guided by time itself. If you've ever wondered why some coins become million-dollar legends, it's because they remind us that greatness hides in plain sight. The 1954 D penny is proof of that. It's not flashy. It's not made of gold. It's simple, unassuming, and yet it carries the weight of mystery and fortune. So go ahead. Check your old jars. Look through your childhood collection. Visit that dusty box your grandparents left behind. Take a close look at every 1954 D you find. Because when you finally see that one coin, the one with the off-center strike, the faint doubling, the subtle flaw that turns copper into gold, you'll know. You'll feel it. Your pulse will quicken, your breath will catch, and you'll realize that what you're holding isn't just a penny. It's a miracle of history, a tiny masterpiece that survived decades to find its way to you. And in that moment, you'll understand the truth that every collector dreams of. Sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't hidden at all. They've been right in front of you all along. But this isn't any ordinary penny. This one, minted in 1944 with no mint mark, has been known to sell for as much as $1.6 million. A coin so small, yet powerful enough to change a person's life forever. Now, take a moment. Picture holding something so common, so overlooked, that you'd never think twice about it until you learn the truth. Until you realize that the very coin you've ignored your whole life could be worth more than your house, your car, and everything in your wallet combined. The 1944 no mint mark wheat Lincoln penny carries a secret. A mystery buried in the heart of American coin history, one born during the chaos of World War II. The U.S. Mint was in transition, switching from steel pennies made in 1943 back to copper in 1944. But mistakes were made. A few coins slipped through, struck on leftover steel planchets from the previous year. And those mistakes, those errors, became some of the rarest treasures in numismatic history. The Mint in Philadelphia, 1944. Machines roaring. Workers rushing to meet wartime demands. Somewhere among billions of copper coins, a handful of silver-gray steel planchets, leftovers from 1943, accidentally find their way into the presses. The dies strike Lincoln's face, the wheat stalks, the date, 1944. But these coins aren't copper. They're steel, cold, magnetic, and unknowingly, history is made. Fast forward 8 decades. Most people have no idea these coins exist. They spend their 1944 pennies on gum, candy, gas, never knowing they just let a fortune slip through their fingers. But a few sharp-eyed collectors, a few lucky dreamers, have discovered them. Found them in jars, inherited collections, or estate sales. And each discovery has sent shockwaves through the coin world. Take one collector, for example. He was sorting through a box of pennies left by his grandfather. Old wheat cents, most worth just a few cents each. But one coin looked different. It was brighter, silver-colored, and didn't feel quite right. He grabbed a magnet, and it stuck. He couldn't believe it. After testing and grading, that single penny, a 1944 no mint mark steel cent, sold for over $1.6 million. One coin, one discovery, one moment that changed his life. Every 1944 penny tells a story, But not every story ends in gold. So how can you tell if you have the real deal? Here's how. First, check the date. 1944. No mint mark under the date. That means it was made in Philadelphia. Then, look at the color. If your 1944 penny is copper-colored, it's common. But if it's silver gray, almost metallic, your heart should start racing. Because that means it could be made of steel. Next, grab a magnet. This is the moment that separates ordinary from extraordinary. If your penny sticks to the magnet, it's made of steel, and it could be worth a fortune. But don't stop there. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it for professional grading. Counterfeits exist, but experts can tell the difference. How could $1 million mistake still be hiding in plain sight after 80 years? The answer lies in the sheer number of coins produced. Billions of 1944 pennies were made. The odds seem impossible, yet every few years, another 1944 steel cent surfaces. Another story makes headlines. Another collector's dream comes true. Think about it. People throw pennies away, sweep them off tables, leave them in parking lots. But somewhere, one of those forgotten coins is worth more than a Ferrari, more than a lifetime of savings. And someone, maybe you, will be the one to find it. It's a strange feeling, knowing that something so tiny could hold so much power. A penny, the symbol of the smallest value, becoming a key to wealth and history. It's almost poetic, the kind of story that reminds us to look closer at the world around us. Because sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't hidden in locked chests or buried underground. They're sitting right under our noses, disguised as the ordinary. The story of the 1944 penny isn't just about money. It's about timing, luck, and the human instinct to discover. It's about how something made in haste during wartime could survive decades later to become a millionaire's prize. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the hope of the impossible. And it's about believing that even the smallest things can change everything. So as you sit there, maybe you're thinking about that jar of old coins in your closet, the one you haven't looked at in years, or that coffee can of wheat pennies your grandfather gave you. Maybe you've handled a 1944 penny before, tossed it aside, never realizing what it could be. Maybe, just maybe, it's still waiting for you to notice. Every great discovery starts with curiosity, with someone who refuses to overlook what everyone else ignores. The 1944 no mint mark steel penny is a legend because it proves that the ordinary can become extraordinary if you just take the time to look, because this isn't a fantasy. It's real. People have done it. And while most will keep walking past their fortune, a few will stop and realize what they've been holding all along. The next time you see a 1944 penny, remember this story. Remember the noise of the mint in 1944, the mistake that changed lives, and the collectors who turned history into fortune. But the truth is, it's not. Because one of the world's most mysterious and valuable coins might be sitting in your house, hidden in plain sight. The 1941 no mint mark wheat Lincoln penny. Back in 1941, America was on the brink of war. Factories were roaring. Men were preparing to serve. And every coin that rolled off the presses carried the weight of a nation about to change forever. Among billions of ordinary cents, a few pennies slipped through the cracks of history. Pennies that shouldn't exist. Pennies that would one day shock the world of collectors. Now, before you dismiss this as just another old coin, listen closely. Because what makes the 1941 no mint mark wheat penny so special isn't just its age. It's the tiny details, the almost invisible differences that can transform a 1-cent piece into a fortune worth more than most people's homes. Take a look at the front. You'll see Abraham Lincoln's face, worn but proud. Beneath it, the date, 1941. And just under the date, nothing. No letter, no mint mark. That missing mint mark means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the original U.S. Mint. And that's where the mystery begins. But not every 1941 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The real treasure lies in the mistakes, the rare errors that happened deep inside those old machines. Some were struck on the wrong metal planchets, leftover blanks from foreign coin runs. Others were double die strikes, where the design was impressed twice, leaving ghostly shadows in the numbers and letters. A few even show off-center strikes or clipped edges, tiny imperfections that make collectors' hearts race. Every few years, one of these rare 1941 no mint mark wheat pennies resurfaces. Sometimes found in dusty drawers, sometimes in coffee cans filled with change, and sometimes in estate sales where families have no idea what's hiding in their parents' collections. Imagine the moment. You open your coin jar, pull out a handful of wheat pennies, and one of them just feels different. You tilt it under the light. The color seems richer. The edge is sharper. You flip it over, and those two words, 1 cent, seem to shine like they've been waiting decades to be found. That's how it happens. Ordinary people finding extraordinary wealth. Now here's where it gets real. The most valuable 1941 no mint mark wheat penny ever sold wasn't just a fluke. It was struck on a rare bronze planchet with exceptional quality and nearly perfect condition. And when it hit the auction block, it sold for over $1.7 million. 1 cent turned into nearly 2 million. Start with the basics. Look for that missing mint mark below the date. Then, inspect the color. A genuine 1941 bronze penny will have a deep, reddish-brown tone, not the lighter, zinc-like shade of later years. Next, look closely at the numbers 1941. If you see doubling, where the digits look slightly shadowed or blurred, you might be staring at a double die strike. One of the rarest kinds of minting errors. Flip it over. The wheat ears on the reverse side should have strong, crisp detail. If you notice an odd shape, clipped edge, or misaligned lettering, don't ignore it. That could be a minting error worth thousands. And if the coin feels slightly heavier or lighter than a typical penny, it might have been struck on the wrong metal entirely. Every few minutes, collectors all over the country are finding these hidden treasures in places they least expect. One man in Ohio sold a 1941 penny for over $30,000 because of a double die error. Another woman in California discovered a flawless one in her grandfather's cigar box. It sold for over $90,000. These stories aren't myths. They're proof that the past still hides unimaginable value. Now, imagine what that kind of discovery could mean for you. Think about it. One coin, worth $1 million or more, sitting quietly among your spare change. What would you do with that kind of money? Pay off your home? Retire early? Travel the world? The beauty of this story is that it all starts with a single penny, a tiny piece of metal that has carried American history for over 80 years. Let's reset for a moment. Close your eyes and picture the world in 1941. The radio hums with breaking news from Europe. Gas is 19 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread costs 8 cents. Pennies are precious because every coin counts. Lincoln's face was a symbol of endurance, of a nation holding strong. And among the billions of coins that poured from those presses, just a few carried a flaw so perfect, so rare, that collectors decades later would call them miracles of metal. These coins were never meant to be valuable. But time, chance, and error turned them into gold mines. That's the magic of numismatics, the art of coin collecting. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth $1 million. So, here's what you can do right now. Grab a magnifying glass. Pull out your old coin jar. Look for that 1941 date, no mint mark below it, and study it under the light. Every scratch tells a story, every gleam a possibility. If you see something unusual, a shadowed number, a misaligned strike, or an odd color, you could be looking at one of the rarest pennies in American history. Collectors, investors, even museums, they're all searching for these lost treasures. Because every time one resurfaces, it rewrites a tiny part of American history. The 1941 no mint mark wheat penny is more than a coin. It's a symbol of hidden fortune, of patience rewarded, of history waiting to be rediscovered. And remember, the world's most valuable coins weren't found by experts. They were found by ordinary people who paid attention, who believed that maybe, just maybe, their penny could be the one. Think about it. The penny in your hand, the one you almost spent on a cup of coffee, could be worth more than a mansion, more than a lifetime of work. That's not luck. That's awareness. That's curiosity to so the next time you reach into your drawer, your car cup holder, or that jar of loose change, take a second look. Tilt the coin. Study the details. Because one day, someone just like you will find another 1941 no mint mark wheat penny worth $1.7 million. And when that happens, history won't just repeat itself. It'll reward the person who dared to look closer.